Hey, race fans, welcome to another episode of Backseat Drivers presented by Mobile One. I'm going to do all these names here. We have Kim Coon, Jonathan Merryman, Eric, and Danny B. Guys, no surprise, the best guy on a road course right now, Chase Elliott, gets the win at the Roval, goes back-to-back. Kim, let's start with you. We're not shocked that the 9-1.
No shock that the 9-1, he was definitely on my radar in terms of a guy that can get to victory lane over the weekend. Hard to believe, though, that he's making history, especially with as young as he is. And, man, 2021 is bright for Chase Elliott and that team because we've got 6 road courses, and I think that's going to carry over everything we saw this season into next. But Chase is a guy I have in my Final Four, my Championship 4. So I think he's going to ride this wave of momentum from the Roval and lock himself into the Championship 4 with some good showings in the round of 8.
Yeah, a lot of good things going for Chase right now. Remember, next year we're not going to that next-gen car. We're still going to be in this same setup, this same race car, so that plays well for them next season. Look, the field's got a lot of catching up to do. He flat out spanked them yesterday. He's done it all year long. The fact that last year at this racetrack he drove it off into the turn, the first turn, plowed through the tires, came back, still came out and won the race, shows you just how good that whole team is. But, look, I think it comes down to the way Hendrick prepares these cars. If you look back at Jeff Gordon, classically, he was really, really, really good. And if you trace, where those cars come from, really, the 9 is just a rebranded 24 team from years ago. So I think it goes back to the notes. And, look, Chase is one hell of a driver too. So I think you better watch out next year. To Kim's point, he could have 6 wins easily just coming off road courses.
You mentioned Jeff Gordon right there. Of course, Chase Elliott replaced Jeff Gordon, and now he's sort of kind of taken over Jeff Gordon's road course dominance. He's won 4 straight on road courses. If he wants to add to that streak, his next opportunity in a points-paying race will be at a brand new track to everyone, Circuit of the Americas. So that's going to be I think that's going to be a must-watch event. But, like you said, Chase Elliott, he didn't dominate this Roval race like last year, especially the second half. He was unbeatable. In this race early on, he was, kind of flirting in the top 5, but there were a lot of different leaders as the conditions throughout the day changed. So I really think until Blaney spun out with about 35 to go, until those final restarts with Kyle Busch up front with older tires, until those restarts, I really didn't see if Chase Elliott was going to win this race. It was very much up in the air, but leave it to the newest road course ace to ultimately get the job done.
It's kind of refreshing to see Hendrick Motorsports be back at a track where you can look at them and say, oh, yeah, they got this one in the bag today. Like, all 4 of their cars, for the most part, was running in the top 10 today. So it was really nice to see that come back. We haven't seen that in a long time out of Hendrick Motorsports, especially. We see Stewart Haas racing. We see Joe Gibbs racing. Expect them to run at the front at all these tracks. But then you go to a road course, and we know we're going to have 6 of those next year. So Hendrick Motorsports, especially Chase Elliott, they are definitely the class of the field. We obviously know now that Austin Cindric will be coming to the Cup Series in 2022 rather than next year. So I think for the most part, Chase Elliott's going to be sitting comfortable next year on these road courses.
But we don't know where Briscoe's going, and that's a big open seat, and he's not too bad at the road courses either, so who knows?
Now that fans have had a chance to see all of you individually and now together, welcome to our paper towel, maple syrup, lumberjack convention commercial. You guys left Merryman and I out of the flannel. So I don't know who planned it and who got the memo, but it wasn't Merryman and I. Okay, so let's move right on along to the other side of things. You have the highs of racing with Chase Elliott, and then you have the lows of racing with Kyle Busch. This is the first time in 5 seasons that Kyle Busch will not be making it to the Championship 4, and the first time since 2014 that the defending champion has been knocked out in the round of 12. Kim, 18. What's going on?
I think he's just bad, or I think he's just in a bad mental space. We've seen some pretty angry, pretty agitated interviews with Kyle Busch. He had himself knocked out of the playoffs early. He said
months ago,
the round of 8. So when you go into it thinking you're not even going to make the next round before you start the previous round, that is not a good mental space to be in. And I think he just cannot get over that slump. Yes, he has this dark cloud hanging over him this season, but you got to have a positive attitude. You're not going to get anything done with where he is mentally. So I'm going to go ahead and say it. He's not winning for the entirety of 2020. He will not be in victory lane for the remaining 4 races. Kyle Busch winless on the year.
2011, Tony Stewart said they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs because they didn't win, and yet he came out, won 5 in the playoffs and won the race. I think a win early on in the playoffs would have changed the trajectory of Kyle Busch's season. You know, I don't know if we can chalk it up anymore to no practice, no qualifying, or any of that stuff. I just think they're not hitting on whatever the 11 team is hitting on. And look, even the 19 hasn't been the greatest team this year, but somehow they figured out a way to make it to the round of 8. So I don't know what's going on there. I do think he can get a win this season and extend that streak. I think it'll come at Phoenix, be the first time that we've had a champion not win the race and be crowned a champion. So I think Kyle will be a winner this season. I think next year there's going to be hell to pay for everybody who is in Kyle Busch's way. He'll have a full, 2.5, 3 months to get everything under control. The team will get under control, figure out what the 11 team's doing so well, and they'll come out swinging once we get back on track at Daytona next year.
Well, I actually agree with you, Jonathan. I do think 2021 is going to be a great kind of return year for Kyle Busch. But I actually more agree with Kim in this case that I do think the mental side of it has a lot to do with why they struggled in this round. Obviously, they didn't have a whole lot of speed coming in. They were in a little bit of a points hole. But when you're already writing yourself off before the round even begins, I just think that's just bad momentum all around. It wasn't going to work out great for him. And then you factor in the fact that I think he technically finished 30th this week. So this was his first top 30 at the Roval in 3 tries. So this round didn't work out great for him. But I do want to give Kyle Busch some credit because he showed great resilience yesterday. They got damaged on that one restart when they kind of got sideswiped by Bowyer in the middle of 3 wide. And, Kyle Busch this year feels like every week says his car is killed at some point or another. There's no guy in the Cup Series better at dragging a killed race car back into the top 5 at some point or another, because he had a very real shot at winning this race. Again, he was leading on like the second to last restart. I do think that the pit strategy, the tire strategy at the end, they're staying out when all the leaders pit. I do think that took the race out of Kyle Busch's hands. I think he otherwise might have had a shot to race with Chase Elliott, at least maybe get to his rear bumper late in this thing. But I thought overall Kyle Busch did show some great mental toughness at the end of yesterday's race, but he just started the round with so much negativity. I don't think it was ever going to go his way.
Aside from how he started off this round, I don't think mentally there was ever anything wrong with Kyle Busch this year. I mean, look at it. His confidence was really high at Daytona, showing up to Daytona with literally the trophy onto his M&M's car. He's showcasing the fact, hey, I'm the champion. I'm the best there was last year, and I'm ready to be the best I can be this year. But I do think that not having the practice in qualifying that he was used to definitely affected him. Juggas Racing always brings him a good car, but it's something that more like the 11 team could click on without having that practice more so than I think the 18 team was. So if we come back next year and we're able to practice more and get them more up to speed, I think it will be a different Kyle Busch next year. I think it'll have that same confidence he probably always had this season, but better results.
Weird to say that Kyle Busch will not be contending for the NASCAR championship this year, but 2021, beware. The rest of the field is all we're all agreeing on. Okay, let's get into the round of 8. Let's list off these 8 drivers who have locked themselves in. They're still contending for the championship. We have Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr., Alex Bowman, and Kurt Busch. We're headed to Kansas, Texas, and Martinsville for the round of 8. Kim, who does it favor more, and who needs to be a little worried?
Well, this round was interesting for me. I kind of went through each track and went through the drivers that are still contending for the championship, and no track stood out to me as somewhere that's terrible for any of these drivers. Yes, we have drivers that are very good at some of these tracks. I'll pinpoint Hamlin, Harvick, obviously, Martin Truex Jr., but nobody in the round of 8 is just awful and has anything to fear. I don't think going to Kansas, Texas, and Martinsville. I think it's actually relatively even playing field. My standouts, though, for each of these 3 tracks, obviously, Hamlin very good at all 3. Harvick stands out to me. Chase Elliott, the one worry I have is Martinsville for Chase Elliott. Yes, he is good there. He races up front there. There are some wins there he deserved to have gotten but didn't. But he always seems to get caught up in mayhem or drama when we go to Martinsville. So that's one thing that stood out to me as I'm looking at these drivers and then the 3 tracks we visit in this round.
Yeah, I think to Kim's point, I don't think anybody's necessarily going to struggle in these 3 races, maybe except for Martinsville because it's a wild card. I do, however, think it's going to be extremely hard to beat the 4 and the 11. So a third and a fourth place finish is essentially going to be struggling to make it to the next round if you're below that cut line. I do have a really good feeling. I'm going to steal some of Danny B's mojo here. That 88 car has just found a way to get it done and to claw their way to this round, to this point. I think they could go out and win at Kansas. I don't necessarily know if anybody's going to beat Harvick at Texas or Hamlin at Texas, because those guys are just so good there. Austin Dillon did do it earlier this year, but just something about that 88 car. They've been clawing their way to the top. And look, if we get, say, Alex Bowman winning this week and then someone else that's not Hamlin or Harvick winning at Texas, it's wide open up in the air. I mean, there is a good shot that the 11 or the 4, one of those two cars might not make it to Phoenix if we get some unconventional winners the next 2 weeks. So I don't know. I'm going to be tuned in and watching. It definitely has potential to be crazy, but you're going to have to beat the 11 and the 4 to do it.
Yeah, I think on the surface, this round doesn't look like a wild card round. You got 2 mile-and-a-halfs in there, and Martinsville can get a little wild, but guys who are good at Martinsville are always good at Martinsville. But I think this is going to be a sneaky round because, like you said, at Texas already this year, Austin Dillon and Tyler Reddick finished 1-2. And just in the previous round, Kurt Busch won at the mile-and-a-half in Las Vegas. So I agree with what you're saying. I think guys like Bowman and even Kurt Busch, I'll throw his name out there, are kind of too far back, in my opinion, to point their way into the championship four. At this point, I think, honestly, they have to go into this round right off the bat looking at a must-win. And I think those mile-and-a-halfs could very well be wild card races in that sense. I mean, Alex Bowman's run great at Kansas before, so is Kurt Busch. He's won at Kentucky last year. So they both have success on mile-and-a-halfs recently. That's got to be the races they're looking at. Coming into these playoffs, I really would have had Martin Truex Jr. maybe as a guy who could kind of be a dark horse challenging Hamlin and Harvick, because I think Hamlin and Harvick are going to have a pretty easy, going to cruise pretty easily into the championship four. But after his win at the Roval, I'm not going to count out Chase Elliott. And to y'all's point, Chase Elliott's really good at Martinsville. He's had some issues in the past, some not of his own doing. But I think ultimately Chase Elliott's going to, ride this momentum, those extra playoff points he got, already have him in the championship four. Like you said, Jonathan, I think finishing third and fourth for some of these guys is not going to be good enough to make it to the championship four. So I think ultimately when you look at how competitive this round is, I think you got to look at the playoff points coming in. And Harvick and Hamlin have a huge lead, a huge padded lead. Keselowski as well is in a pretty good spot. I think really it's going to be a battle for that fourth spot. And if we get some wild card winners, maybe that changes things. But going into it, I think some of the guys basically 6th, 7th, or lower just need to go out and get a win.
I think if you look at it at first glance, the 4 guys that seem like they could get their way into the championship four in Phoenix would be Hamlin and Harvick, obviously. I think Truex will have a great car at Martinsville and maybe get his potentially 3rd win in a row at Martinsville to get his way into the championship four. You look at a Chase Elliott, he's usually been pretty consistent so far in the majority of these playoff races. I think this is a good round. It sets up nice for him, all 3 tracks that he's won at Kansas before, got his first Xfinity win at Texas Motor Speedway, has won in the Truck Series at Martinsville, obviously come close to winning the Cup Series there back in 2017 and a few other times as well. So he's someone, I think, if you're looking at who's that 4th guy to get in there, I would say Chase Elliott. But again, back to what Jonathan said, you look at the 88 team, and they have been so, kind of just getting in there right when they need it. I don't know where Greg Ives is hiding that car they had at Auto Club, but I'd be pulling it back out and taking it to Kansas because that could be a good setup for them.
Yeah, the 88 just needs that car every single week. Show of hands, does anybody have a driver outside of the playoffs winning at one of these 3 tracks? All right, great. No. Okay. So none of you thought that anybody outside the playoffs was going to win, but one guy that is excited to get to Kansas, who is no longer in the playoffs, is the 14 of Clint Bowyer. He's a Mobil 1 driver. Clint heading to his home track. What are the chances he may win? It'd be the first time ever, Kim.
It would be the first time ever, which makes me think he is not going to win. He's never won at his home track. I don't think anything is going to change. I do think that Stewart-Haas Racing will give him a fast hot rod. They bring fast cars each and every weekend when we come to the racetrack. However, there's too many other strong contenders when we go to Kansas that I think are going to outperform Clint and make their way to victory lane.
I will say there's an advantage of Stewart-Haas Racing pouring a little bit extra into their non-playoff cars because it helps Harvick secure a spot in the championship round at Phoenix a little earlier. So I think Clint will be fast there. I think he's got a little bit of extra motivation, but the 14 team just hasn't been hitting where they need to be hitting this year. Certainly not hitting as hard as the 4. So I don't think he wins. I think he has a good day. I think he comes away with a top 10 finish, and he goes out with I don't want to say dignity, because obviously Clint has dignity already, but he's not gonna slouch and run 30th. I think he has a good showing. I don't think he's gonna win.
I'll do you a little better. I think he has a real shot at a top 5, just because he had possibly winning speed at the Roval. He definitely had top 5 speed at the Roval before he got that damage on that late race restart. So it's his home track. It's his last chance to race there in front of his hometown fans. I won't rule anything out. Clint Bowyer might have a trick up his sleeve.
It is sad to see Clint Bowyer leaving, but you know what? It's been a good run of him. Do I think he's necessarily going to be contending for the win this weekend? Unfortunately, no. I mean, the truth is, he has have one teammate who is trying to win a championship, and unfortunately, they've got to put the majority of their power into that car versus the guy who's retiring. But do I want to see him do good? Absolutely, I do, and I hope he does. But hey, we also never know what weather can do. He won his last race at Michigan due to staying in the top 5 and being in the right place at the right time when the weather hits. So you never know what can happen over in Kansas.
Yeah, amazing at the Roval. If we were talking about some slick tires or power steering, we might be singing a different tune for Clint Bowyer. But regardless, we know he'll be on the farm with some beer and barbecue up there in Kansas. We're going to do – it's essentially this or that kind of game day style. So strictly Kansas only. You can ignore Martinsville and Texas for right now. So Kansas, Kim, we're going to start with you. Denny Hamlin or the field?
Denny looking for his 3rd straight win at Kansas. 3rd time is not going to be the charm for Denny Hamlin. I'm taking the field.
Merryman, Denny Hamlin, or the field?
Field.
Okay, Eric?
I don't want to spoil maybe a later pick, but I think Denny Hamlin. I think after that win at Daytona, I'm going with Denny Hamlin.
Danny B?
I'll go with the field on this one.
All right, 3 for the field. I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin just to add some momentum Eric's way. Okay, highest finish, a Penske car or a Hendrick car? Kim?
I'm going Hendrick between Chase Elliott and Alex Bowman. They are riding this wave of momentum. They've got speed, they've got strength, and then even their teammates. We saw Byron running up front during the Roval, as well as Jimmy Johnson during part of the race. So can't cut out the guys that are out of the playoffs too, but Team Hendrick all the way.
Merriman, you have a Hendrick car winning, so I'm going to guess your answer is
We're going Hendrick on that.
Eric?
Yeah, I actually will go Hendrick as well. I think the Penske car, specifically Keselowski, have been strongest at the shorter racetracks. I think the 1.5 mile actually will lend itself to guys like Bowman and Elliott, who've shown more speed the last few weeks.
Davey?
I'll go with Hendrick on this one. I think back to 2019 Kansas, where I'm sure Bowman wants some redemption for that one. At one point, he was literally side by side for several laps with Chase Elliott. So I think both of those two will have good speed this weekend.
Well, when all 4 of you agree on something, that makes me a little scared. So I'm going to go Penske, just to switch things up. Okay, next up, top 5 finish. Will it come from Martin Truex Jr. or Brad Keselowski?
I'm going Martin Truex Jr. He's got multiple wins, though. I know Brad has one there, too. It's a feeling. Brad did not show us the strength that a lot of people thought we were going to see last weekend at the Roval. Whereas, I think headed into this weekend, we're going to get a little uptick from Martin Truex Jr. in that 19 team.
Brad's better car. I think Brad's going to outfinish Truex at Texas or Kansas, wherever we're going.
Well, I think I'll go Truex, because if they give him even half what I think Denny Hamlin's had at Kansas the last couple of years, I think Truex can contend for a top 5.
I'm sure this probably goes against the last question we just answered, but hey, I'll go with Brad on this one. I mean, he was the car who ended up getting around Bowman last year at Kansas, so I'll go with Brad on that one.
You can still have Hendrick finish 1, 2, 3, 4, and then have Brad get a top 5 finish in 5. Okay, stage 1 winner, Chase Elliott or Harvick?
I'm going to say Harvick, but I think Chase gets the higher overall finishing position for the race.
Stage 1 finish is what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll go with Chase.
Yeah, I think Chase as well. I'm not sure exactly how the starting lineup's going to shuffle out, but him winning this last weekend is likely going to give him a much better starting position. So I'll just, based on that alone, I think I'll go Chase.
Yeah, I'll go with Chase on that one too. That just makes a lot of sense.
Did all of y'all say Chase again?
No, I said Harvick.
Okay, all right. I'm going to add with Kim a little bit of girl power. I'm going to go Harvick too. Yeah. All right. Last one. Who doesn't have the best day at Kansas? So who has the worst finish, I guess is another way to ask that. Is it going to be Alex Bowman? I already know Merryman's answer to that. Or Kurt Busch?
I'm going to say Kurt Busch has the worst day because I've got Bowman on my radar as a guy that could be in victory lane when we go to Kansas.
Yeah, I've obviously got Bowman winning at Kansas. But look, I would extend this list to – I don't necessarily know if the 4 or the 11. I think we're going to see a surprise. I think we're going to get a mix-up. So maybe it's not Kurt Busch that has a bad day.
I don't want to sound like an Alex Bowman hater. I definitely think he's going to have more speed. He's going to run up front more consistently. But, I mean, Kurt Busch won the most recent race at 1.5 miles. Yeah, they played some strategy to do it, but I'll bet on the veteran. I'll go Kurt.
I don't think Lightning's going to strike twice on that one there, Eric. I am going to say it would be Kurt Busch. I don't think he's going to do bad. I still going to say maybe a top 10 for Kurt Busch, but I don't think it's going to necessarily be bad, just maybe worse than Bowman.
All right, I'm hopping on the 88 train too. I'm going to say Kurt Busch has the worst finish as opposed to Alex Bowman. Well, guys, we are a little over 1,100 miles away from the championship, and it starts with 400 miles at Kansas, Clint Bowyer's home track. He put on a clinic at the Roval, but now we're headed to some Kansas-style barbecue. It's going to be a fun one. It's the opening race for the round of 8. There's 8 drivers contending for a championship still. Let's head to Kansas. NBC will have the coverage Sunday at 2:30. Tune in. We'll see you guys right back here next week on another episode of Backseat Drivers.